got a treat for you guys today. We've got Justin Meier, nurse practitioner, John Fournier, Crunch Fitness, overall fitness, just excellence. We went over his story last time on the interview. If you guys want to check that out, make sure that you're on the YouTube. But today we have brought all of us together just to have a discussion on a myriad of things. John reached out to me and had some questions for Justin about, I guess, a whole lot of things. So if we just want to give a brief introduction of each of you, we can kind of get the ball rolling and go from there. Just chat.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead, my man. I'll let you.
Am I looking there?
Yeah.
I'm Justin. I'm a nurse practitioner over at Push Med in Greenville off of Garlington Road. So come check me out anytime. We do a myriad of things there. So anything from weight loss to hormone therapy, IV therapy, aesthetics like Botox and fillers and stuff like that. So come check us out.
John Fournier. I know you said expert, but I don't know about all that.
I didn't want to undercategorize you by just saying Jim.
No, always go under. It's the same thing like
under promise over deliver.
How I got girls, or especially my wife, just under promise everything.
Okay. Good advice.
Anyways, so been in fitness whole life. But on our first podcast, I got a bunch of questions in regards to from fertility to men's health to blood work. So I think this will be a good little partnership to kind of just hopefully clarify and bridge some communication of honestly where anybody, but specifically men, are just lost. You know, they hear these hot words of TRT, HRT. They might be having libido issues or stuff that we'll cover with the questions. But I think this is just kind of well needed to give some specific action items of where to go, whether it's a clinic, and how to actually get some traction to just being in better health, feeling better, and even knowing where to begin, you know? So, however you take it off, ask some questions, roll with it.
So I guess, I'll start out by saying, Justin, if one of the questions that John sent me here, let's say that somebody listening this or watching it is not local, right? They can't just come down to TNS or Push Med and get blood work. What do you think the best resource for somebody to call in their own blood work, or, where should they go?
Yeah. Most of the times you're going to have to probably step outside the box and just be prepared to do a little bit of cash pay. You can use like your FSAs, HSAs and stuff like that to pay for a lot of the stuff. But, typically like John said earlier, we were talking, Private MD Labs is a good one. Life Extensions has a good panel. They're going to cost you a little bit more, and you're not really going to get a whole lot of insight as to what all it means and things like that. But it's at least something to kind of get you started and go start getting the ball rolling to get in to talk to somebody about it. Right. So I think Life Extensions has one for like around $275, but it covers everything from your basic CBC, CMP, so all your metabolic panels, your CBC tests for all like your anemia, your hemoglobin levels and white count, all that sort of stuff. And then it'll go into B12, vitamin Ds, all your hormones, including your thyroid, cortisol. So, it has a good bit of labs. But they are a little bit costly for some people. There's other labs. If you're just looking for specific hormones, you can buy like a Dutch test, which is a dried urine test. You basically pee on sticks 4 times a day, and then that will spit out all your hormone levels. It'll tell you a lot of information about like what kind of pathways you're going down. Like, are you going down toxic pathways, especially if you're a female and their estrogen pathways are going down the wrong route. It'll tell you how to fix things with just natural supplementation and stuff like that. As far as like just the average person, it's hard to really get in and purchase and know where to go. There's
a lot of doctors are.
Everlywell was another one you can look at.
So they might be reluctant to, pulling the certain blood metrics that you might want to see. If they don't deem it, as necessary for you, they're, probably not going to use that resource.
And then Arc Point, if you have, I guess I'll give John a plug, John Constantine, but they have kind of centers all over the country now. And we're kind of affiliated with them as well. But you can go on there and just basically tell you whatever you want to do. They have some panels already created as well. And that's another access point. They have, just look up ArcPoint, ARCPOINTE, I think so. But they have some good labs as well.
Good information. I've used private MD labs myself before. Awesome stuff. And same with Life Extension. Yeah. So if somebody's gotten blood work.
Oh, Everly Well is another one too.
Everly Well?
Yeah.
Okay.
They have some decent stuff for like if you're looking for something like GI stuff. So if you have like issues with like sensitivities and food sensitivities, they have some tests for that. They do have some like blood stuff as well, though. I think it's just finger prick. I don't know how reliable it is, but it's something.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, man. Well, so let's say you are on, gear or TRT. A lot of the gentlemen that I talk to, I'm sure you guys can agree, they'll come to me and they'll say they're on TRT, but it's really black market, self-administered, 250 milligrams a week. They have no regulation. They're not doing blood work. They're not under doctor supervision. What markers should they look for?
Biggest things are going to be, as a provider, the biggest things we're looking at as a CBC, because kind of one of the main risks when you get too high levels, you're going to be polycythemic, so your hemoglobin, hematocrit are going to be elevated. So those are kind of the major markers, because those are like stroke risks, So thick blood is basically what it means. So you're going to have to give blood. Sometimes if it's super, super high, you might have to get 2 units of blood, but you have to have a provider send you in a prescription to get 2 units, to give 2 units of blood. So it really would behoove anybody that's doing something like that to at least follow up with somebody. There's providers that are going to give them hell, and there's providers that are going to give them, they're going to give them hell, but they're going to understand it as well. Yeah. So I guess myself included, but
have you ever given 2 units?
I never had to give 2 units.
Okay,
but
right.
One thing to kind of piggyback off that info he was saying, which is all good, is for any guys, I don't care what age, young, if you decide to get on TRT, is to at least make sure you are doing blood work. Mm-hmm. And you may not even be able to read what he's talking about. Hemoglobin, hematocrit, your creatinine levels, your ALT, AST, things that you're like, I don't even know what the hell they're talking about. But at least to get that blood work done, whether it's through his clinic, private MD labs, and just to get those metrics where if you see, oh shit, I'm in the red, mm-hmm. go to a source that can at least, not that we be able to explain everything, but at least get you in the right direction, mm-hmm. To negate some of these effects. Mm-hmm. Because having high blood pressure, to me, along with, CBC and hemoglobin, hematocrit, are things that can be very easily fixable, donating blood. But if just left alone, and all of a sudden your kidneys are messed up, there's a cascade of effects that can really, really affect you down the road. True. So for any of the guys or ladies out there that are just lost, they have no idea how to bridge that thing of like, my doctor, I bring up testosterone or this, and he's just like, oh, no, we're not testing for testosterone and estradiol or all this stuff. I know through private MD labs, it's like $160, $180. Mm-hmm. I sound cool. I got a little discount code with them, but not to plug it. But the main thing is to just take that step. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't know what the hell you're reading, again, email one of us. I'm sure you can do your thing and put links up. Yeah. But to at least give you the basics of what to understand and what to look for, just to help down the road if things that can be a serious issue, anywhere from stroke or heart attacks or all these, certain things that may be dogma attached with the word steroids, where people think, blowing on a needle in a back alley. But if done correctly, it can be done in a safe manner to live a healthy male adult life, So, that's it.
And understandably, like, I don't want to scare anybody away from TRT because, most guys eventually will probably want to be on it. Mm-hmm. But typically, TRT, the correct doses for the patient are not going to cause kidney issues, heart issues. prostate issues, any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Even the hemoglobin increase, if you're on the right doses, those things should not be an issue at all. But the problem with the internet is the bros tell you to be on 200 to 300 milligrams of testosterone weekly, and that's a TRT dose, but most guys don't need more than 150, honestly. So
I had a gentleman last month try to tell me that his doctor, and he was lying to my face. I just smiled through it. His doctor prescribed him 400 milligrams a week of Sustanon 250.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I was like, that's not even, you don't, that's not prescription, right? Or
it's only in the UK.
And that's 4 different esters,
as far as I know,
right? Is that like,
hopefully it's got a,
hopefully, yeah.
I think it's got a little bit of propionate and a little bit of cypionate, maybe an anthate, but it's just or maybe it's just propionate and cypionate, but it's not available in the US. We don't have it here. I think it's mostly UK thing,
right?
But
yeah, it was funny because of the amount of guys that I get that tell me they're like I said, they're on TRT.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
I know they're lying,
and I know you guys know this, but like to put it in perspective, I always laugh at it. And I'm sure one of you know this more than I do, but like as a healthy male, I'm pretty sure your nuts produce 6 to 8 milligrams a day of testosterone, I believe.
Yeah.
So when you think that relative to 250 that you hope is most, all these underground labs are probably either overdosed or you don't really know exactly.
More overdose than underdose. Typically.
Yeah. Let alone what it's cut with or what, oils and this and that.
Primarily they're 200 in like prescription.
Prescription
strength.
is 200, right?
But most black market labs are going to be 250 to 300 somewhere in there. So,
and that's where I also laugh when you'll see, I'm taking, test 450 or whatever. You're like, first off, that's bullshit because it's definitely not 400 mgs per ml.
Like
or you're injecting. Yeah,
I was going to say
you're injecting glass in you.
Taking 20 minutes to get a milliliter in.
So while yes, it can be a cheaper route. To have your boy who makes everything in a bathtub or whatever, just spending a little more money if needed. Obviously, a doctor's not just going to write you a script. But at least take a little bit of time and research to find a quality resource, whatever that is in your world. And again, getting those blood works done, so.
Well,
it's just baseline stuff. So like CBC, like you said, a CMP, a PSA, just check your prostate. Doesn't cause prostate cancer, but if you're prone to it, it could maybe speed up
there's a pretty strong genetic thing there, right? But, I've known guys who've been fine their whole life, and then as soon as their doctor puts them on TRT, within 2 or 3 months, their PSA's through the roof. They have like problems peeing. And I don't know if it's just a direct link.
And then lipid panels, because you will drop your HDL typically, your good cholesterol. And then for the most part, and then you obviously need to watch your test and estrogen for the most part. For guys, women, you're going to have to kind of watch everything, progesterone and everything else. But sometimes DHEA. Guys, you can look at DHEA a little bit. I don't really typically check progesterone on guys unless they're having like a bad gyno issue or something like that. But typically prolactin and DHT and those kinds of things, we can always check those as well.
Well, speaking of gyno, that actually leads me into the next kind of topic that John sent me here. Gyno issues in general. What does that stem from? Like gynecomastia, we'll say.
Typically, it's a over production of estrogen or over conversion of testosterone to estrogen. There's a handful of guys that do have some issues with progesterone though, causing some of it, because you'll get some guys that just, no matter what you do, no matter how many AIs they're taking, it's just not enough. Even throwing them on something like Caber, Golden, it's another one to kind of drop prolactin levels, because sometimes prolactin can also be elevated in some of those guys with gyno. Sometimes even Caber and like an AI is still not really producing the right results. But ultimately, it just depends. Most of the times I see guys that have major issues with it, they end up having to just go get them taken out. So
I've watched those procedures. Have you ever watched it?
I had it done.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking I'm going to have to at some point, but
so I,
unfortunately, probably some guys
and mine was 100 purely percent just bro science. Didn't understand anything about estradiol or AIs or all this shit, and I was just blasting. And there's some genetic component to it. But ideally my left gland looked like a cow udder.
Really?
And it was one of those, and then I was just blasting letrozole, all this stuff, to go away. Like, I'm backstage at a bodybuilding show, like literally putting ice on my nipples because they would get hard to make it visually look better. Now I'm just being real, you know? And after I saw the bodybuilding pictures, because it's like, you think the leaner you get, like, oh, this fat will go away. No, it just looks worse.
Yeah.
So I actually had the surgery done, mainly just for my left one, but they just did both. It's not like they put you under. It's not real invasive. Gave me a little cocktail of things that made me loopy. Cut right around the nipple line, and it looked like, almost like, you have that chicken breast with that white shit around it? Like, it looked like that he pulled out.
That's what
I probably have a picture somewhere I could send you.
What kind of medical, would that be like a cosmetic surgeon, or is that just a procedure, would you say, since he's not going under?
I mean, there are some specialists that do it. I heard that there's one guy in New York that pretty much everybody
does all the bodybuilders. Yeah.
I've seen one guy who's like famous on the internet for it. Like, and he has fun with it. I got to give him credit. He'll cut it out, take it out, slap it on them while they're like, they're loopy. And it just looks like a freaking oyster or something.
Oh, yeah. It's like brutal.
Most of the time it's going to be a plastic surgeon, because I don't think a lot of it you're going to get anybody to pay for it, insurance to pay for it and stuff.
So that's a cosmetic thing.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Trying to see if Blue Cross can help me out
either.
Yeah, hell, I mean, there's probably some route, like,
there is probably somewhere you can get like a plastic surgeon to get it covered, but that for the most part.
So you're telling me I have to wait until it develops some kind of cancer cell to justify it?
Or you just say mentally, like, so you're uncomfortable in your own skin now.
So they just have to do a little bit better job, like doing the doctor has to do a little bit better job explaining to insurance why it's causing you such a problem.
Understood.
So because anything can be covered if you're symptomatic and you're having an issue and nothing else is helping, you know what I mean? But mostly everything, I should say. But if you have a problem with the size of your penis, I don't think that will include something like that. Or like the size of your breast or something. But if it's a breast issue causing a problem, like I've done numerous like workups for women that have too large of natural breasts. They've gotten breast reductions paid for, so I don't know. It's just
identify as a chick.
Yeah.
You can be Jessica.
I mean, yeah, that's true.
And you need a slight breast reduction.
Yeah. I could file for some residency in California and just go make a decision.
There we go.
All right. I'm sure that would be covered.
Yeah.
Well,
canceled.
Hey, I'm uncanceled.
No shit.
Time. Yeah. Creatine and how much, I guess, for the general population of people.
I mean, systematically, the literature shows, I don't think there's been 200,000 studies. I don't think there's been one that's shown any harm in it. Yeah. But I think the typical is load with about 10 to 25 grams in there. So grams are, I think most people say what to load for a week or 2 weeks.
There's some studies that support that.
Yeah, but I think most guys, it's just 5 grams a day.
Yeah. But I've looked at the charts, and so the creatine that we make, I actually took the data chart from the loading versus a maintenance phase, and I put it on our label to show that, and this is proven.
I'm literally buying it. Matt, throw me that creatine. Throw me that creatine jug. We're about to plug it. I was literally buying it today.
Yeah,
there we go.
It, man. Obviously, any monohydrate is fine. This just happens to be mine, but I tried to resemble on there that loading period. If you take 20 grams a day for about 4 to 5 days, you do reach that peak saturation. And we see in some trials that their creatine phosphate levels almost get a super saturation effect from taking a lot for a short marathon.
Oh, so you're actually teaching me something. I thought the loading phase was bullshit.
Well, so it is
kind of just a sales gimmick to go through it more.
It kind of is. Yeah. Like, the way I see it is you're looking at maybe a 5% advantage. If you take 5 grams a day, after about 20 to 21 days, your muscle cells still reach that saturation threshold.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But from taking 20 grams for a week and then going to 5 grams, it's almost like, you reach that point faster.
Yeah.
And that point is a little bit higher.
I got you.
So I'm a fan of 1 scoop a day, 5 grams a day. Personally, I already struggle with remembering to take my stuff as
it's hard to remember all that stuff.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I actually you were the one that got me on the tangent when we talked about what was it? We sounded like idiots. The Mount Rushmore.
Oh yeah, that was fun. That was a good.
But
video.
I didn't know the benefits of like mental health, the cognitive stuff, Alzheimer's. I think you said.
Yes.
So I kind of went down a rabbit hole with that, and I was
Mhm.
like, "This is a crazy amount of studies now that's showing that." I was like, "Holy shit!" So
And it's amazing when the actual medical and like I guess academia world gets a hold of this, and because I mean for years the sports nutrition industry has kind of been at the forefront of this.
Yeah.
But now there's a lot of neuroscientists and a lot of really great researchers explaining the benefits on cognitive function, antidepressant.
Yeah.
And they're compiling meta-analyses, like taking hundreds of studies and analyzing them. That's why, I have my grandma on it. Even my PT or my dad's PT in Spartanburg, all of his rehab patients now, especially if it's hip replacement or some kind of shoulder surgery, immediately before you go into PT, he recommends that you, start supplementing with creatine for that reaction time improvement and recovery. So I'm a fan. Obviously I'm a little biased. I have to put that out there, but super researched, often misunderstood. And I could give this lecture hundreds of times over, but I'm sure people have heard enough of me yabbering about it. Is there anything else you guys wanted to throw in on creatine? I feel like I should have named this company the Creatine Store because that is like I'd talk about it. Like that is that's the hill I'll die on.
That's cool. I never knew anything about that. That's cool though.
It really is, man. Because if you think about it from a energy system level, creatine phosphate, quick energy, quick decision making potential. Our brain relies on it too.
Because it's mostly anaerobic. It's not really. I don't think it's really well. Efficacy wise, I don't think it's really more for like aerobics, more like anaerobics and stuff.
They have studied it in marathoners. It is not, and the thing about that we misunderstand in physiology about the energy systems is that we think of things very compartmentalized, right? So we think of the creatine phosphate system as one, the lactic system or carbohydrates is another, and then the aerobic oxygen. They're not like light switches, we commonly think it's like, once creatine's turned off, now it's for carbs. And then you're a marathoner. They all work in synergy. So if one improves, another does as well, but not as much. So anyway, enough of that. This is a good one. This is actually one we could all really chime in. How to approach continuing your weight loss journey if you're hitting a plateau. I guess a simple strategy.
So simple, depending on where you hit that plateau, I'm a big fan of, and not to say my way is right, but typically what I do with my clients is when they hit a plateau, I like to look at each stimulus individually. So recovery, first and foremost, is something gone haywire, sleep's out of whack now, because that can stem a lot of things. But typically, let's say every metric is nothing's really changed. Training's the same, diet's the same. I'll usually change one thing before I pull back on calories.
Okay.
Because that's typically the last thing I like to do. And usually I'll, if the sleep and recovery is fine, I'll look at the training. Now, when it comes to cardio, I'm not one of those let's just do more cardio. But whether it's the training or the cardio aspect is how can we get our bang for our buck in that workout? So whether it's, I hate to use these fancy words, say you're on a treadmill or still 30 minutes or whatever you're doing.
John, that's not a fancy word.
Well, I know, but how to maximize that time, So I think maybe throwing in a different stimulus. Or if it's from a dietary standpoint, I'll pull back 200 calories. Do that for a week, see how that goes. If it goes to shit, and I know what to fix. So really with any metric of hitting a wall, I'm very big on just change one little thing, see how it goes. I'm not a fan of new plan, new workout, new everything. Say it goes well, you still don't know what the hell you did. Or if it goes to shit, you don't know even where to begin to fix stuff. So usually I'll just look at those three funnels, pick one, change something, see how it goes, and kind of piece it together that way.
Just manipulate slight variables.
That's it.
It's pretty much all it is a science experiment. So just like he said, just make small changes every week, 100 calories, subtract 100 calories for a week, see what happens. Or I think of like in cardio, like as a calorie cut. So cardio can be a calorie cut. Drug can be a calorie cut, so like cleanse, something like that. I mean, it depends on what the person's doing, but and then obviously, reducing calories can be another. But you just small incremental movements, you're going to see what works the best. I'm kind of the same thing. I don't like to cut food. Any contest prep person I'm doing, I want them to stay as high as they can the whole time. We're just going to keep. You're going to hate me at the end because cardio is going to be closer to 2 hours, depending on the person. Some people don't need a whole lot of cardio, but some just need to work a little bit more because they're more sedentary jobs or whatever. So
I agree. I've only ever coached 2 guys, for multiple shows, and so I don't have a whole lot of like prep experience other than those guys. But I've worked with a lot of people as far as dieting, and one thing I agree with both of you guys is the slight manipulation of just a few variables, right? So instead of reducing food, it depends on where they're at in their cut. I try to start their cut with the most amount of calories possible and the least amount of protein needed to maintain that recovery. Because I know that when they get to that sticking point, sometimes all it takes for me and the people I've worked with is exchanging, 15 grams of fat for 50 more grams of protein, like flip the calorie balance, because the protein tends to keep them fuller.
Yeah.
It's more thermogenic, right? Yeah. And they end up eating net less calories. And they, that keeps them, basically kind of stops the plateau and they keep going. We're just manipulating macronutrients. Yeah. Or same thing with the cardio component. You guys, I mean, have you competed? Yeah. So you guys both know how you feel on show day.
Yeah.
Like a slug, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What is it? NEAT, non-exercise induced activity-based thermogenesis. That slows down because when you're providing yourself less energy over time, I'm a mover. Like normally I'd be standing up, talking, waving my hands. Yeah. But I'm sure by the time I get to that last week of prep, I'm sitting here like this.
Oh yeah.
So keeping that in tune, like if you're working in 2024, if you're a coach working with an athlete, it's probably safe to say that your athlete might have one of these or might have like a whoop or something. Yeah. Monitor what they're doing, not just in the gym. Yeah. Like, are they still moving around? Get them to go on a walk.
Yeah.
Those little things, I think, to add on to what you guys are saying.
Yeah. Baseline, I tell pretty much everybody at least 6,000 to 8,000 steps a day. It doesn't have to do this 10,000. Like just get something in. Mm-hmm. You can literally go to Lowe's or Costco and get in 6,000 steps pretty quick, so.
I used to kill it before I opened this place. Yeah. I was like 20,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
And then now it's 20,000 rotations on my wheel. So that's a great topic. I'm going to snip that one for a short for sure. Let's talk about something that's very near and dear to all of us men, possibly. Dick size. No, libido issues. So I guess this could be a multifaceted conversation between just in general, if you're on HRT, if you, I don't know any other component we can throw in there, but let's talk about it.
Yeah. You can kick off with this one.
Hi, my name's Jacob. I have libido. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So we kind of, I guess we were talking beforehand a little bit about this, but usually the first thing you want to look at, I guess depends on what kind of issue you're having. Is it hard time getting erect, hard time staying erect, or is it hard time finishing, those kinds of things. So each one of those can kind of go down another little segue or whatever. But typically most guys, when they come to me as a provider, they're coming to me as it's the first time that they really had or experienced this issue. So the first thing we look at mostly is going to be blood pressure issues. For most guys, that's going to fix it. If their blood pressure is too high, you got to think your brain is kind of number one. Mm-hmm. I think it gets about 50% of blood that your heart pumps every minute. And then you got your you got your lungs, and then you got your kidneys, I think takes the most of it. Mm-hmm. So when you're elevated, your body's sensing a problem. So it's going to, the other stuff downstream isn't going to matter so much. So i.e. your penis, hands, feet, things like that. So you might get edematous, you might get feet swelling and things like that. And then, so that's something to always consider. It doesn't, even just slight variations. I think the the numbers like 130/90. If your blood pressure is consistently 130/90 or greater, you're doing some damage to your heart. It might take years for it to be an issue, but you are doing some damage. So you want to keep your blood pressure under a pretty good tight control for optimal health. So that's somewhere to start. As far as medication goes, as a provider, I want to see results in my patients. I want my patients to be happy. So, I'm going to get them on something that's going to make them happy and make them happy in the bedroom. And it has another good effect. It typically makes you feel better in the gym, and that's a PD. It's Viagra and Cialis. So, because you're going to get better pumps, not just in your penis, you're going to get better pumps in the gym as well. So,
I wanted to ask you about that because that's it's become really popular, right? Even for young men on TikTok, they're getting Cialis, and that's their pre-workout. And listen, I like Cialis. Not even, I don't struggle with like erectile issues, but lowering my blood pressure. I know that both of those drugs were developed originally for heart conditions.
Pulmonary hypertension.
What do you think about I won't say overuse, but maybe unprescribed use of something like Cialis as a pre-workout for these young men?
I think you just need to kind of watch and make sure your markers you're okay. I mean, I don't really, long-term effects, I don't really know. There's not really a whole lot of studies that show long-term problems with Cialis and Viagra. Like I wouldn't recommend anybody doing Viagra for something like that. It's just shorter acting. You don't need to take Cialis every single day because it typically is in your system about 72 hours. So, I think a few times a week to keep your blood pressure down, especially if you're running other things. Because I'm sure if they're running something like Cialis, they're probably also running something like testosterone on top of it. Because I don't think most kids are really doing just Cialis. I don't know. Maybe
one bodybuilder talks about it, and then they take that one piece of information and they just take the Cialis component.
I guess it's kind of the same thing with like growth hormones. You get a lot of guys because they can get that off research chemical websites and stuff like that. So they'll do growth and they'll do. I guess you can get Cialis on there too, and Clen and all the other things. But I think it's hard to really say. As long as I can monitor their blood work, I think it's probably
so. As long as they're under Justin Meier's care, you approve, right? No, I get it, man. That's especially bad too with with oral use, like oral anabolics. I think that a lot of young people just presume that it's safe because it's a pill, and they'll take things like D-bol or Anavar or Winstrol or whatever it may be without understanding what drugs are and how they work. So they don't even have a testosterone base in their system. What do you think about that? Like if somebody was to come to you, and I can cut this out obviously, but hey man, I'm running 50 milligrams of Anavar a day, nothing else. What do you see that potentially leading to?
Blood work wise, 50 milligrams is kind of a higher dose. You get so many women on like 5 milligrams of Anavar nowadays. The little VAR, what do they call VAR bunnies or whatever?
I've never heard that.
Yeah, VAR bunnies.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Instead of a Barbie, they're Barbies.
Yeah. So 50 milligrams to me is a pretty high dose to just start. There are people that, if we give them to HIV patients, there's, oral stuff. I don't really think it's 100% necessary. You have to have like a testosterone base if it's doing what it should, but you want to monitor things a little differently because, you're typically not going to have, I've never really had this question, so I have to guess it's kind of making me think a little bit, but, the biggest thing you want to watch is just make sure liver kidney function is good. And then kind of watching, to make sure that they're not having any sort of problems with like conversion and stuff like that. Cause typically Anavar doesn't really convert very well. It doesn't like
it's DHT derived.
Yeah, it's all DHT. Yeah. So mostly you're just watching like hair loss and acne and those kinds of things. Yeah. So, if you can put up with that, but
I didn't know if like downstream it would, I don't know where I heard this, but things like Anavar, any DHT derived drug, if you're taking that without,
this is like what DECA is, what DHT derived too. And there's a lot of, I don't know, there's a guy named Tian Tian, I think is his name, the camel or something like that. I don't know. He's some internet guy,
Yeah.
but that's all he prescribes most of his guys. He's not like a doctor or anything like that, but he does DECA only as TRT.
Okay.
And he says you don't get near the effects. It doesn't cause the libido issue. I don't know. Research him. He's got some interesting points. I mean, I can't prescribe it I think he's in Canada.
Okay.
And so Canada has a little bit laxer laws.
Yeah.
But
Canada wants you to get DECA dick.
Yeah.
So change your gender.
But I mean, I have a handful of like my older guys on a little mix of like DECA and testosterone. You just kind of cut the ratios down just to make sure that because you get a little bit of effect on joint stability and issues and things like that. You kind of help that, but that's primarily the only time I really run into it. But as long as your doses is not like crazy, you shouldn't have any problems with libido with it as well. So, but because I think that they're about the same. But yeah, I've never really tried anybody on just Anabar only.
Yeah.
I think a big thing too is to, whether it's whatever, just test, just Anabar, to look at the person. You know, the majority of people that pop in my head when you ask that question, hey, I'm taking 50 mgs of R, I would flat out tell them you're just an idiot. Just stop. Because usually they're training as shit, they're eating as shit, and what they're trying to substitute with 50 mgs, 100 mgs, whatever is not, can it assist? Sure. But it's not fixing the pillars of training.
Those are the guys that I see that are in their 50s that just, I get all the side effects, but no actual benefit. They'll tell me they've been running things like Trend for a year straight. And not have any look of, like, they just have high blood pressure on their face. I can see it.
They look like a bloated hot dog.
Yeah.
And that's the thing when I talk with my men is I always say the same thing. You want to feel good. Yeah. You want to look good. And you want to
fuck good.
Good. Yes.
Yeah.
How do we make those happen? And again, it's those pillars of training, nutrition, and do drugs help? Yes. But that should be the last thing. You know, a lot of people go to, they already look like shit. And then, if I just take Anavar, just all this stuff, it's not going to fix those pillars. Yeah. It's just going to make you look like a bigger piece of shit than it already is already, you know? So I think having those honest conversations with who is asking that question, you know, can it help? Absolutely. But in the grand scheme or the totality of usually the picture of the person asking that question, you just want to say, dude, you're wasting your fucking money. Yeah. You don't need 50 mgs of R to get in shape, feel good. You know, we need to do blood work, see what's fucked up, and then go from there, you know? So,
true.
I think I like his answer better.
Yeah. Well,
I just think, I'm just thinking,
I'll put you on the spot.
No, I think from a clinical side, 100%. I just think of like the majority of the people at least I see in my realm. Yeah. It's just that honest conversation of like, whether it's a young kid or this older guy. Oh man, hey, my buddy got me this. Like, you know, I'm trying to da-da-da. I'm like, bro, I just saw you walk in here with fucking chicken nuggets or like we're way off track before we even get to this conversation, you know? Or you talk to them about their cholesterol and they have concept of, you know, anywho,
that's when, we'll move on to non-PED related stuff here in a second, but I was curious, and this might not even be PED related. As somebody who recommends and monitors those on TRT, HRT, you mentioned HDL cholesterol drops. And that's something I've seen in myself. I'm sure we've all seen it from doing things in the past. What's the best advice you can give someone to elevate that while still maintaining their HRT? Like, can you bring that back up?
Yeah, you just got to incorporate better fats in your diet.
Yeah. So like omega-3 consumption and stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah, just kind of watch your macros and kind of see. Because most of the times you see it, it's most guys are in prep or something like that. And at least the times that I see it, they're usually in prep or something, and they're doing a pretty drastic diet with it. And so they're probably not getting as much macros that they should or whatever. But yeah, definitely keep the fish oils and all the other things in there, omega-3s and everything as much as you can. So, but I mean, there are like versions, like the I have some guys that are resistant to it just because of cholesterol issues in their family and cardiovascular history. And I usually push them more toward like the creams.
Mm-hmm.
And so the creams don't typically drop your HDL. So
Interesting. Yeah.
it kind of,
I've seen how orals tend to crush HDL a lot.
Yeah, there's definitely different compounds that can crush that HDL.
Yeah.
I think winning is one of them. But also there's, again, a genetic component to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, again, not to beat a dead horse, doing the blood work to know if you're already low, which being excessively, I hate to say BMI, but you're just fat, probably estrogen is going to be high.
Yeah.
Your cholesterol is going to be all out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
But also understanding that cholesterol is actually, to an extent, a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, people talk about LDL, HDL, triglycerides, high density lipid proteins and low density lipid proteins, is understanding the function of that. Because I believe your body produces 3,000 milligrams of cholesterol a day.
Mm-hmm.
So cholesterol is a good thing.
Yeah.
So when people,
it's the father of all of our hormonal.
It's
kind of the hormones.
But I think people have this like Mucinex monster image of cholesterol, like this little green goblin attaching to arteries and which
sodium, dude.
So
like
sodium and blood pressure. That's a whole nother kind of which I would like to talk a little more about blood pressure in a second. But knowing your baseline already, okay, and like you said, healthy fats. I think I'm going to say this wrong, so forgive me. Azeta, that can help navigate some cholesterol things. But I think, again, having the baseline. If you're already jacked up with cholesterol, getting on gear is not going to be ideal. Let's get that cholesterol fixed, which is already going to have a cascade effects of making everything else feel better. And then approach TRT or things like that. But most guys don't go into it blindly. And I've seen some wild, single digit HDL where you're like, oh shit. I think, and I don't know the literature behind it, citrus bergamot. I've implemented that and seen some slight increase, but I've also implemented like the avocados, the healthy fats, the nuts, all that stuff.
The issue that I have with my industry and like fish oil, for example, is a lot of the research on fish oil is done like 10 to 12 grams a day for the cardiovascular health stuff.
Shit.
And so it's like these supplements are recommending that you take 2 to 3 grams a day. And I know that none of my customers are going to be able to afford taking, a whole bottle a week. And I don't want them to. So, implementing, having strategies to implement like the avocado, the citrus bergamot. What's another one?
Niacin.
Niacin.
Even which form of niacin was it? Because it's the one that actually flushes you.
The slow release one?
Well,
there's one that's no flush and there's one that is. And I don't know the exact, but it's the one that flushes, the one that actually can increase H.
I had a customer of mine last week actually came in from my personal doctor, recommended him here for his cholesterol and had recommended niacin. He got niacin in my lion's mane, called me the next day. He's like, dude, do I have an allergic reaction to lion's mane? It's like, I can't stop sweating and I'm itching and my face, it like tingles. I said, didn't you buy niacin? It's like, yeah. So
there you go.
There you go, buddy. But so speaking on the blood pressure, like you mentioned there, tips for blood pressure.
Yeah. So I think that is I'm not going to say the number one thing, but for me off the top of my head, probably the number one thing I come across that people don't check enough, especially for men, TRT, that whole realm, is one of the biggest issues currently. I definitely think there's some quick fixes for it. And in no particular order, the ones that pop in my head, number one, I would look at is sleep. Typically, if sleep's issue, usually bigger guys, sleep apnea, a whole different effects of that. So I don't want to say like CPAPs, that's a whole different conversation. Potassium, I think, is a huge one. Spinach,
white
potatoes. Yeah, I think the recommended dosage is like 4,700, something like that, which nobody's even close to.
Most people are able to achieve from their diet.
So again, just like if you're having these thoughts and thinking, how can I get more potassium in my diet? You're on the right track. Calcium, magnesium,
big roles.
Yes, huge roles. I think just you may not have the exact answer, but just do research. Do obviously losing body weight. is going to be probably the number one thing to help. But some people are in a situation, powerlifters, they NFL play, whoever don't need to lose weight.
Yeah.
So again, how to mitigate it and not just think medications, because honestly, most blood pressure medications are diuretics, which is a whole nother issue. So that'd be kind of my quick number one: lose weight, look at sleep, potassium. Then you can get into like the baby aspirins and things, but I think those are just little band-aids and not actually going to address the issue.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Same thing. The, losing weight, even 20-pound weight loss is usually enough to drop your blood pressure by almost 20 points. Your systolic blood pressure, the top number.
Yeah. I think they say a pound is like a point.
Yeah. So, So, I mean, it goes pretty quick if you're getting to a reasonable body weight. And then, like you said, like you kind of alluded to like magnesium and things like that. That's stress. Like stress is going to increase your blood pressure, lack of sleep. You've got to sleep. You've got to get stressed down. If you're working out too much, cut it back. If you're not working out enough, then get in there and do it, those kinds of things. But, and as far as everything, I mean, there's about 30 things you can do that you should exhaust before you go down the medication route, but, speaking as a provider, there are better medications too. Like my favorite blood pressure medication is always going to be like telmisartan. It's an angiotensin receptor blocker. It's also a PPAR agonist, so it doesn't really cause. It's supposed to kind of help people that are having cardiovascular type issues and also having issues with like weight gain and stuff like that. So it's a good medication for most people to start on, and then after you've exhausted it, then you can move into like a beta blocker, like nebivolol or something like that. That's my favorite beta blocker. A lot of the other ones are just too broad, I guess. The nebivolol is more cardio specific, I guess. So, but that'll work too. But those are kind of, so my best advice is if you have to go on medication, push those ones to your provider.
Yeah.
And to piggyback a little, and this is going to ruffle some feathers, sorry, but I think if you have blood pressure issues and your healthcare provider, your doctor, his first thing is not to address some lifestyle changes and just wants to push a pill, walk out of that office and go find another doctor.
Right.
Because that's not a long-term benefit. Your doctor should be a little bit of an asshole to you in whatever context that is, but want to fix some key pillars before just look at you, oh, here, boom, boom, boom. Boom, which unfortunately today,
because nobody's going to start it anyway. Because like I get a lot of people that come in, they're diagnosed with diabetes for the first time, and I was like, I have to put you on an ACE inhibitor. Like it's my job, So it's going to protect your kidneys, this and that, and the other thing. But they don't take half of them because they just don't want to take all these medications. So, but it's like, as providers, we have to do certain things when you have certain diseases, and it's like, so. If somebody comes into me the first time their blood pressure has been crazy high, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say, you have got to make some changes, do all this, stop smoking. That's another big one. Smoking will increase your blood pressure. Do not smoke 5 minutes before you come in to see me because your blood pressure will be sky high. And I'm going to be giving you another blood pressure medication because of it. Yeah. So just learning certain things, but that's not probably the people that are watching this podcast, but are,
well, that's a fair point too, though, is like you said, as a doctor, you have to prescribe like what's in front of you to help that. And I think ownership as the patient, I think, and this again may just be my general feeling. I think most people know what to do. Yeah. I want to lose weight. Yeah. Well, you need to fucking move more and eat less. Yeah. I want to save more money. Or I want to have a better marriage, or whatever most people know what to do. It's just hard. Yeah. And to be blunt, people are just bitches and don't like doing hard stuff. Yeah. So I think having that conversation with yourself too, and having some ownership of, I'm just being a bitch right now and don't want to do hard shit. Well, do the hard shit and your life will get better. Yeah. And don't rely on a doctor to, make those decisions for you. Yeah, so that's also a
great quote yesterday, and it was in regards to, it was a business podcast, and it goes for fitness too, or health. success comes down to 80% willpower, 20% brain power.
Oh.
Because you really don't have to be that smart to know what to do.
Yeah.
We all know how we could go make money. We could probably take this thing right here and go out in the street and sell it for more than we bought it for. It's possible, but it's the willpower to consistently make the right decisions with that, small amount of brain power required.
100%. Do hard shit more consistently.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It makes you harder. Well, that's what she said.
Great. Make your anxiety go down.
Yeah.
Other things, So.
Okay, so what are some current training trends that you guys see out there that you see as a positive or as a negative?
Man, so I will say this. I'm not going to get off on these trends and this and that. I do think like the pendulum has swung the other way of where I see this new generation of just making shit way harder than it needs to be.
Yeah, yes.
Where it's this whole every last fucking isometrics, like.
What's your RPE, John?
Yeah. Reps in reserve and all these fancy terms, which is good to know, but just the simplicity of going in. That's why I like that Sam guy, this new, going into a gym with your boys. You may not have the best form in the world or whatever, but putting actually in effort, working your ass off, and just not over scientific, every last little type thing. But on the counter of that, I know a lot of people get aggravated with kids being in the gym. Oh, these broccoli head flip flops.
Yeah, I make fun of them.
Which, as a general manager, they piss me off too. But I also would much rather see kids in a gym,
than out
annoying me than out on the streets doing dumb shit. So I know I'm turning into that old guy of like watching them just do the dumbest things. But in a way, I'm like, hey, let me go talk to them, and I'd rather be in the gym than again doing that. But from a training aspect, I think just overthinking of every last little minute detail instead of just go. You'll figure shit out. Just go, put in hard work. And that's, again, not to go down and keep rambling here, like with anything. Yeah. I need to lose weight. You're not going to have every little last answer. Just fucking, you know what you need to do. Eat less, move more. I want to put on muscle, work out harder, follow good information, figure out what works for you. I don't give a shit if it's this guy you follow or that. But eventually you will find something that works for you. Stick with it, consistent. There you go.
Yeah. Don't get hung up in the paralysis.
Analysis.
I use that way too much, but paralysis by analysis with all the information we're given. Me and Dusty had we talked about this with all the great information that's out there, whether it's, Renaissance periodization. I'm huge fanboys of them, but like Lane Norton or other, even Louis Simmons, right? There's all different pillars of training methodologies out there. And it's so easy today to get hung up in following one system and then piggybacking and jump into another because you're not seeing results. And then they get in this feedback loop of not actually ever making progress because they're just listening to new data and they're not actually going and doing the work.
Yeah.
So I agree. Anything you've seen that?
No, I mean, I kind of put my blinders on when I'm in.
Yeah.
But
taste of the real training.
Every time I can't even go to like Iron House because the video cameras just drive me insane. So I stopped going there for a while. I don't see it where I go, thankfully, because it's mostly older guys. But
you train at Iron House normally?
No, I typically am at the Y and Duncan or at Nautilus downtown.
Okay. Old John's place. Yeah.
And but the trends, I tell all my patients, I don't care what you do, find something that you like, because it's something you can stick to, whatever it is. I mean, I don't care if it's Spenga or what. I mean, some people like a little bit of bike, a little bit of, some HIIT, and then a little bit of yoga at the end, whatever. If it makes you happy, do it. But, just do something that you enjoy, because ultimately you got to be able to stick with it. And so if you can find something that you enjoy.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's probably the biggest from a manager standpoint that I've seen different is I think if all of a sudden social media was done, gym attendance would drop drastically because I sound old when I say this. My generation, when we went to the gym, it had nothing to do with getting likes and we enjoyed the gym versus now people go to the gym Not so much because I think they enjoy the gym, but to put a video up to get likes and some dramatic hardcore music of, oh, I'm gonna conquer light. Like, dude, you're doing a lat pull down. Like, fucking, it's not some grand.
I was training my fiance last night at Crunch. We're trying to get her squat technique to improve. She has like an instability, so we're doing bot squats. And then like 2 or 3 girls up behind, like they have their, their shorts literally ass cheeks hanging out.
Yeah.
They came over to the squat rack, set it up, took a photo, then left.
Weight too. I see that all day. Yeah, of course.
And I'm like, what do you, but that's just the gym. It's not just your gym.
Gym, no,
I mean, that's, I got a chuckle out of it, Recommended protein intake per day, per meal, etc.
Yeah, I think it was, I forget what that old school kind of like 0.7 or 0.8 per pound you weigh or something. There's a lot of different literature that may say a lot of different things, but I think it's kind of a consensus now. Again, some genetic variabilities, but I think especially those studies way back in whenever the 60s, 70s were kind of done just general gen pop. I think now that trend is going upwards of at least a gram, maybe 1.2, 1.3. Obviously, again, with, you don't want to go too high on that metric. But I would recommend, your average healthy, kidney issue, things like that. I see no issue with like shooting for generally a gram per pound you weigh.
I think it's a safe recommendation. I've seen it even higher than that. Like guys taking, they're 150 pounds, 300-400 grams of protein a day. And, I'm not going to sit here and tell them that it's the end all be all if they're able to go to the bathroom regularly and they feel fine on that. But I like to start out at a gram per pound of body weight and work up throughout the duration of a cut. During a bulk, I work down because I know that they're going to be in a surplus anyway. They don't need extra protein sparing. They need the carbohydrates for, they spare that protein. 1 gram per pound is a safe assessment unless you're morbidly obese, I would say.
That's what literally I was going to go to. Depends on the person.
Right.
Because obviously the calories per all that, you can manipulate those numbers, which I agree. Most morbidly obese people actually have a lot of muscle. But again, using those macros to manipulate which ones you need to,
Yeah, and on macros, man, like I think that's been overblown a lot
for
people.
Gosh,
unless you're a competitor, like just focus on calories and protein intake, man. Get you some fiber in. You're going to hit your goals.
But I will say with that same token, I know we kind of align on this, where I hate when people say, oh, just burn more calories than you take in.
Yeah.
You'll lose weight. Well, at a very macro level, you are correct.
Yeah.
But it was the same analogy where I said, oh, cool, you want to be a millionaire? Save more money. Well, it's like, oh, well, no
it's a
shit.
Very general.
Yes, there's a lot of tentacles with that where it's not so easy. Yes, 30 carbs from a sweet potato and 30 carbs from a Pop-Tart. On your app, majority of them, most of them are 30 carbs, but how your body processes those, tying into A1C and stuff like that, is a completely different kind of, thing to think about.
Nutrient partitioning is huge. And that's something that the IIFYM, macros community doesn't take into account. It's 30 grams from oatmeal versus 30 grams from Pop-Tarts. On paper is a gross caloric similarity. But how does your body partition one source versus the other?
Because the GI discomfort you're going to get from the Pop-Tart and all the other.
Exactly,
or inflammation and everything else.
With that being said, best kind of overall, I guess, dietary strategy for a regular gym goer, somebody who's just wanting to get in shape, build muscle, look good.
I always just stick to the 40-40-20 split for the most part as far as macros go, but that's just kind of me. If you're, if I'm got somebody in like a competition or something like that, that's going to be high protein, high carb, almost no fat, but that seems to work best for my own personal, most of my clients at least. There are a handful of people that need a little bit of additional fats and things like that. But overall, those seem to be pretty effective for what I use them for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would generally say the one you can adhere to and can be most consistent with. I try not to get like paleo, keto.
Yeah.
Some of them, in my opinion, are better than others. But at the end of the day, if you are getting results, you feel good, you look good, and you fuck good.
Yeah.
To each their own.
Yeah.
I definitely will give my input on, I don't think carbs are, going to make you fat by no means. But again, if you're on the Mediterranean or whatever, if you're getting the results and you feel good, I kind of always go by the feedback you give me. Let's keep rolling with it.
Yeah.
So
sustainability, man.
That's it. The diet that is most consistent and adherable to you and your lifestyle, we roll with it.
Let's talk about caffeine. Thoughts on caffeine? How much is too much? How much is, I guess, efficacious for performance, etc.
Yeah, as we're drinking these.
Yeah, no. See, I'm a caffeine whore.
Yeah.
I'm addicted and proud.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some friends of mine that are pushing 3 reigns a day, whole, like coffees in between, Diet Cokes as well. It's like, what the hell? Like, I thought I was bad, but like I think honestly, like 1 cup a day is kind of probably okay for most people. But and I don't know what kind of cups you're drinking. Yeah. But probably 200 maybe is a little bit much with somebody if they have cardiovascular disease and blood pressure issues and things like that. But if you keep everything else, you have your pillars, like he says, your adequate diet, you have your sleeping adequately, everything else, health marker wise is in check. I think it's probably safe to overconsume occasionally if you're having a stressful day and you need to get things done or whatever. But
yeah, I see they've done studies on even, once again, marathon runners taking 600 milligrams of caffeine prior to their event. It improved aerobic performance, surprisingly. We've seen crazy studies on athletes consuming like stupid amounts, but I do notice this problem that ramps up with people is almost like a speedball kind of thing. They'll ramp up their caffeine intake to the point where they are just consuming it all until they go to bed at night, and then they take something to sedate them to go to sleep, and then they continue that cycle. And that's, I believe, over any kind of cardiovascular problems necessarily, I believe that that's going to lead to more damage to their recovery, because their REM, their cortisol rising in the morning starts to it gets impacted by that. If you're waking up immediately and taking a shot of Red Bull rather than allowing your body's natural curve of cortisol, so I think it becomes problematic when it becomes an all day thing, where it's a consistent all day thing. If you're drinking your coffee in the morning and then you go to the gym in the evening at, let's say, 4 p.m. and you have a 350 milligram caffeine pre, you should be okay. But it's when it becomes a cyclical kind of all day, every day thing.
Because it's just, it's like any other type of drug. You're going to require more. And more.
Exactly. So. Takes 14 days to establish a stimulant tolerance, and 14 days to degrade it. So if you're doing 300 milligrams a day every day at the same time, you're not going to feel it after, 2 weeks of doing that. It's just, you're going to have to keep going. Yeah. Which, sucks because we love caffeine. But anything else you guys want to discuss really quick? We've kind of gone through the list. I know you provided this to me. So is there anything else you wanted to kind of bring up and mention, discuss?
No, I mean, kind of just for me, the big thing was just having people know a go-to place. If you're uncomfortable having a conversation with your doctor about getting blood work, talking about steroids or whatever umbrella that is to you, or HRT or TRT, there's a lot of good places. Here, this Push Med, which you can go to an actual clinic, set up an appointment, talk to them. They can do the full labs and read actually what you're getting done, and give you advice on it, whether they can fix it, things along that line. Or if you want to reach out to me, you go through an online thing, private MD labs. Just don't bro science the shit out of it. I feel fine. I look great. Just please take $160, $200, whatever that may be that most people spend on fucking caffeine a week, and invest in just getting labs done once, twice a year. Because hopefully the majority of people, everybody's fine. For those few that may have some underlying issue, that you can at least mitigate now and not wait till you're in your 30s or 40s or what that looks like, then have some serious issues.
Yeah.
Do that $200 is nothing in the grand scheme of things, you know.
I was gonna say it's like people say it's expensive to eat healthy, but look how expensive it is to live unhealthily. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing.
And it's also coming from a guy. I don't want to sit here on this pedestal thinking I've ran every drug and steroid you can possibly think of. Gyno surgery. You know, I've been lucky enough that to me there's two genetic things of like internally. I haven't had a lot of issues with livers, kidney. I've been lucky on that end. Never deal with acne or stuff like that, but like fertility, we talked about last time.
Yeah.
Almost could not have a kid. Literally 0 sperm, no swimmers. And going through that experience of understanding the importance of, damn, I wish I would have had some kind of outlet or somebody, which again, it all falls on me, to give me some little, oh, hey, just do this or blah, 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 that may have helped prevent me almost a chance of not having a kid, you know? So that's it, man. That's my rant. Just
I appreciate it.
Do blood work. And again, reach out. I'm always at the gym, into the store, see him. We're here to help as much as we can. That's it, man.
Yeah. No.
So I only charge $250 for a full set of labs and a consultation, which I think is pretty dang reasonable.
That's awesome.
I think it is. Yeah.
I mean,
especially to get to sit down and talk to somebody about it, you know? So,
for sure.
Well, no, thank you both of you guys for coming in. John, thank you for, putting this together. And
for sure, man. Yeah.
I enjoyed it. A lot of great, talking points, conversation. So we'll have to do it again for sure.
Absolutely, man. So, cool. Appreciate it.